So here we had an old one and the new one. So you see the two side by side. They're exactly the same. So now we're just gonna put the new one back on, and we're gonna put it on in reverse of how we took it off. We have all the bolts, the control arm. Now the lower control arm has a rubber boot right here. You want to take the plastic, it was a plastic cover over it, like so. Take that plastic cover and move it out the way. And then we just want to set everything in place and put the bolts in. The bolts here, those right there, got a little difficult to get to because this is a new control arm, so it's a little stiff. The bushings are not wearing to where to move freely, so we're going to try to get those lined up first and then put the rear bolt back in, which should be easier. So I had to fight with it to get it in, but I finally got all the bolts in on both sides, and I still got to put on the ball joint and finish this thing up. So that's what I'm about to do. Get in here and tighten everything down and put everything back together. So I got that one tightened down, and before I torque them, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down these other two bolts over here, and then we'll torque them, and they're to torque down to 152 pounds of pressure. And to tighten those down, it is a 22mm socket. So we got everything tightened down. Now we just got to torque. And these are torqued down to 148 foot-pounds, and they use a 22mm socket. So let me get my torque wrench here. So you get the torque wrench, and let me set it. Torque them down. So we're gonna torque them until we hear a click. And so that's the click right there. That's 148. You hear it. Then we're going to do the other one, which is also 148 foot-pounds. Okay, so we torqued the first side. We're going to torque this other side down to 148 foot-pounds. And we're going to keep torquing until we hear the click. Right there. I'll let you know. And then, okay, so this rear control arm, bolt and nut. It's torqued down to 152. I've already set my torque wrist down to 162 pounds of pressure. And now we're just going to torque it down. There's a click. I don't know if y'all heard the click, but we're at 152 pounds of pressure. Now we'll move on to putting the motor mount back on and then connecting the ball joint. So now we got everything torqued down. Now we're going to put the motor mount back in. We're going to torque it down. So there it sits in place. And you know we got 3 nuts that go on the bottom and 1 at the top. Okay, so we got the 3 nuts that go at the bottom, and you want to torque these down to 64 foot-pounds, and there are 17 millimeters. I'm gonna put them in. I'm gonna start by hand tightening them, make sure I don't cross thread them. And then we'll tighten them down, then torque them. So now I got my torque wrench set to 64 foot-pounds of pressure. Now let's go ahead and torque down those last 3 motor mount nuts, and then we'll move on to the top motor mount bolt. So that's 1. That's 2. And here is the 3rd one. And you should hear the click when we reach 64 foot-pounds. You hear that? Okay. So now, only thing we gotta do is let the motor down, back onto the motor mount, then we tighten up the motor mount. So now I'm gonna let the jack down slowly. So now I let the jack down onto the motor mount. And now we just gotta put on the top nut. And then tighten it down and then torque it. Torque to let the 3 bottom motor mount bolts take the motor mount down, the motor back down onto the motor mount. And we'll put the top motor mount bolt on top, which is a 19 millimeter. And then we're gonna tighten it down, and we're gonna torque it down. And the torque specs, the torque pounds for that is going to also be 64 foot-pounds. Okay, so now we tighten it down. So the only thing we got to do now is I'll torque it down. So there you have it, 54 foot-pounds. You hear the click. So now we got the motor mount torque and all the motor mounts tighten and torque down. Now we just have to replace the ball joints at the bottom. Now the only thing we got to do is get the ball joint in, and what we need is a pry bar to pry it down the lower control arm. Okay, so we got them started. We just gotta get it all the way through. There we go. So we're gonna put the bolts on them and just start them. We don't want to tighten them. Just want to start them until we get all the nuts and bolts on there, and then we'll torque it down. Okay, so now we just got to get the last bolt in there, and then we'll start tightening it and torque it down. And then we'll tighten the ball joint. Okay. So we got the bolt started. So now we can tighten everything down and torque it. Now for the two nuts in the bolt here, you want to torque them down to 55 pounds of pressure. And I've already set the torque wrench. So let's go ahead and torque these down. There we go. And this one, there's the click. And then we'll just tighten this one by hand. Okay, so we got that tight. Now we need to go up top here, and we need to tighten up this bolt, this nut right here, and then throw the cotter pin back in it. Of course, we can't get in there to torque it, so we'll tighten it by hand, and then throw the cotter pin in it. Okay, so we got the nut tightened. Only thing left is to put the cotter pin in, and then the little grease screw for do the grease. So we're gonna put the cotter pin in here. And so we slide the cotter pin in, and then we're going to bend it in place and put the little grease screw in at the bottom and grease up the ball joints. Now that we got the cotter pin in and the motor mount on, the lower control arm and everything all back in place, now we just have to not forget to put back the T-bone motor mount, which goes here. Right here in place. So you just got to put that back in. And we have the two bolts that goes in there, and they are 14 millimeters. I'm going to slide one in here, line it up. There we go. Slide one in, and before we tighten it, you want to make sure you put in the other one that goes up here. You just have to line it up. By hand. Start them by hand, and then tighten them down. And they are 14 millimeter bolts. And once you've done that, just put the wheel back on. Take it down off the jack stands. Put your tools up. And give it a test drive. Now, thank you for following along. If you like the videos and the contents I put out, go hit that like, that subscribe, and the notification bell to get notified when I put out new videos. And as always, thank you for watching.